Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. Here is the daily brief for Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. So 1,270 Russians off the battlefield. This is pretty low considering for the last few weeks, maybe even couple months. This is lower than the second lowest month's daily average of 1,271, which was September, and then October blew that number out of the water. Okay, 697,680. So we're on track to my projection that there'll be 700,000 Russian casualties before Election Day. 8 tanks, 17 armored fighting vehicles, 37 artillery systems, 76 vehicles and fuel tanks. So the fighting is still pretty hot on the front lines. Here is Andrew Perpetua's list, and you can barely see it, I understand, and it's about 2 to 1 Russian vehicles or artillery systems or whatever destroyed as opposed to Ukrainian vehicles or artillery systems or what have you. Okay, the Ukrainian Air Force reports on Shahed drone attack overnight. 0 of 1 Kh-31P anti-radiation missile, and then 60 out of 71 Shahed drones, 39 shot down, 21 taken down by electronic warfare. But that alone doesn't tell the whole story. That looks like a really successful night, but how hours of Russian drone attacks on Kyiv tonight, targeting residential buildings all over the city, while the U.S. forbids Ukraine from striking the launchers. So we're seeing that there's some damage that's getting through. Russians are attempting to make, now this is absolutely terrible, Russians are attempting to make Shahed drones attacks nearly round the clock to save missiles and gather intelligence, says the Center for Countering Disinformation. This is also aimed at maintaining constant psychological pressure on the population to weaken their motivation to resist. It's a terrible strategy for two reasons. One, it's terrible to do to civilian population, this is terrorizing them instead of just fighting the military as you're supposed to be doing. This would be war crimes. As you're attacking a civilian population that's not doing anything. But secondly, it's a terrible strategy in the sense that this doesn't generally cause the other side to come to heel. If you look back historically throughout previous wars, you'll see that this strategy just doesn't work. Whether it was the Germans with the Blitz or the Allies attacking Dresden, it just doesn't cause the population to knuckle under. Imagine this Iranian blank flying over your city every day, all because you and your fellow citizens refuse to live in a society where the state is all powerful. Now, this is a Shahed drone. Just listen to it. That's it in the sky. We'll watch it twice. Imagine that was flying over your house, intending to bomb you, and it gets even worse than that. Listening to air defense and explosions for 4 hours now, since 5 a.m., waking up because of the shooting noise, drifting back to sleep with it, including it in your dreams, getting up with it, drinking coffee with it, listening to morning music with it, reading your book despite it. This is the reality. But it gets worse than that. This is Russian TV making fun of it. Yeah, he's simulating an air alarm in Kyiv. And Solyov is having a good time laughing at it. Yeah, that's what they're doing for entertainment in Russia at this time. Meanwhile, it's gotten worse than that. Russia has fitted Iranian-designated Shahed drones with thermobaric bombs. Now, somebody pointed this out to me a few days ago in a comment or by email or something. I don't remember exactly where I got this from. So, hey, they're doing this. Now, I'm only seeing this by one source here, and I'm looking, so I'm being careful of saying that this is actually happening. But if this does happen, and we'll see more and more evidence of this come out if it is happening. These are also called vacuum bombs. Victims bleed from their lungs, so they drown in their own blood among other organ damage because of the power of these type of bombs. And so fitting Shahed, they have a very good percentage of knocking Shaheeds down, but if they fit Shaheeds with this, it becomes just as problematic as the glide bombs. This is minutes after initial strike with 500 kilogram guided bombs on the residential building in Kharkiv. Russians wait for the arrival of rescue workers to strike again with the goal of maximum civilian casualties. So they hit once, and then the rescue workers show up, and then it's called a double tap. They hit it again. Now, glide bombs were just dumb bombs, but they fitted it with some kind of munition to be able to fly it in rather than just drop it straight down and let gravity do the work. And so they've made it into a far more potent weapon. Imagine Shaheeds now with thermobaric bombs attached to them. That's going to be very rough. Okay, Russian S-300 missile strike on a police station in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv kills one policeman, injures 46 other people. Okay, unfortunately, Zelensky says, you know what I mean by T if you've been watching for any period of time. I try not to get censored by YouTube. Know how to use the time given to them by the indecision of the world. That's right, they do. As we're just trying to figure out what we're doing in the West, this is still going on day after day in Ukraine. Now, I talk a lot about what North Korea has been doing in the three big stories. I think I'm going to evade that tonight because, at least from everything that I've seen so far, North Korea doesn't play as prominently as other things. But I don't talk about it very often in the morning in the daily brief. Ukrainian intelligence, over 7,000 DPRK soldiers deployed. Now, yesterday I was talking about over 8,000, and they're different estimates, but by Russia to Ukrainian border regions, so like Kursk and in Russia, and then over in the border in Donetsk and Luhansk and that sort of thing. They were issued assault rifles, machine guns, sniper rifles, anti-tank systems, and grenade launchers. They've also been provided with night vision devices, thermal imagers, and binoculars and other things, right? So they're actually being outfitted pretty well. Okay. Zelensky saying we could strike North Korean troops preemptively if we had the long-range strike capabilities. This is dependent on partners, but instead everyone is simply waiting until North Koreans start striking Ukrainians. Like, you know the threat's there and you know what they're about to do, but you aren't allowed to go attack them. Okay, Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi has a call with the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Brown. I briefed him on the challenges of the frontline situation where the enemy continues assaults on multiple fronts, leveraging air superiority, long-range firepower, and significant artillery advantage that the Russians have. We discussed the urgent needs of Ukraine's defense and to hold back the Russian occupiers and the next steps of military support. So they are coordinating and they are trying to provide what they need, but it's just a slow pipeline, as you're well aware. Currently, the Ukrainian armed forces are holding off one of the most powerful Russian offensives since the start of the full-scale invasion. That is not hyperbolic. That is a true statement. And if you look at the casualty figures in October, which is going to be the highest casualty figures of the entire war, that's why that's happening. Okay, Ukrainian forces recently advanced north of Sudzha in Kursk Oblast. Okay, so the Ukrainians are making some ground there. Not a lot, but a little bit. Both Ukrainian and Russian forces recently advanced within central Volchansk and northern Kharkiv Oblast. So one side's doing this, the other side's doing that. And then Russian forces recently advanced northeast of Kupiansk and northwest of Crimea. Okay, so that's what's happening on the ground. The U.S. will supply Ukraine with more than 200 additional Stryker 8x8 armored fighting vehicles as part of an aid package announced today containing equipment valued at $425 million. The Ukraine will have received more than 400 Strykers when this package is delivered. And these things are pretty significant. Here's a picture of Ukrainian forces with the Strykers. Strykers have been used across eastern Ukraine and more recently in Russia's Kursk Oblast with the Ukrainian 82nd Air Assault Brigade. A little bit more, Ukraine is deploying AI-powered drones to counter what the Russians are doing. The Russians have been able to electronically knock down some drones, but AI drones don't use the same kind of Wi-Fi or not Wi-Fi, satellite control or whatever. They just rely on AI. And so they're more effective. These drones could achieve up to 80% accuracy in strike zones with Russian jamming equipment, significantly higher than the 10 to 50% hit rate of manually operated drones under similar conditions. Okay, now this is key. This will change the game in a significant way. Now, it'll be well after the election, but it could, even in spite of, if everything goes wrong with partners, this can change the game. According to Oleksiy Petrov, Director of State Import and Export Enterprise, Ukraine is on track to produce its own cruise and ballistic missiles by next year, with full-scale production by mid-2025. When that's in hand, they can strike into Russia as much as they want with their own homegrown material, and game's on. Now, I talked about North Korea a little bit ago, and I talked about it last night with the height of the ballistic missile that was launched yesterday. And here's a diagram of that. Now, with Russia's help, North Korea can hit any number of U.S. cities with nuclear weapons, and Putin's help scaling up production capacity. The number of cities is growing exponentially. North Korea could be stopped merely by letting Ukraine stop Russia. Now, this is Earth. This is where North Korea is launching the drone, and what a ballistic missile does is it goes up into space and then drops back down. This was the drone, or the missile, that was shot yesterday, yesterday, at a huge height, right? Look, or day before yesterday, huge height. This was like 4,350 miles up into the sky. You normally need to do just about half of that to be ballistic, right? So it's going way up into space and then dropping down. And it dropped not too far from Japan, so that's not very cool if you're Japanese. Okay, a couple last things. Andrew Perpetua said, I've been looking for this video for a year. Look at him. He's dropping balls on people. Counter drone training. So this is a Russian video of what counter drone training looks like. Now, here he's going to show or simulate as if like this is actually a drone dropping munitions on him. Okay, so he's talking. I muted it because I don't speak Russian. Okay, here, and look at that. He's rolling away, and the ball would be where the munition is. Now, they're going to show you what it looks like on the ground, and I'll pause it before any munition gets anywhere near him. But there's the guy, there's the munition, and he's going to roll way over here, and the thing will blow up, and they're trying to show. But what I don't understand here is, so I have fairly limited experience, right? 2 years of Army ROTC is the extent of it. So I don't claim to be a military guy in any way, shape, or form. I don't remember ever being on my back. I remember being like, where is it? Like that. Whoops. I remember being like that in a prone position on my belly, but never on my back. So unless you're dropping the ball and you can kind of see while you're on your belly and then can roll, I'm not sure how effective this is going to be. Okay. Last little bit, just this cartoon, German foreign policy under Scholz, the guy that spent the 1980s lobbying to remove NATO missiles from West Germany to appease Russia. Now, I don't think that this cartoon is quite fair, and it's not fair for a few reasons. So this is the Taurus missile, like just waiting to do something, and Scholz is just, ignoring things, enjoying his day on the beach. Okay, there's a few things wrong with this. One, Biden should be there next to him. And that's not a political statement, but Biden should be there next to him, because it's Biden really kind of controlling this, and Scholz is just doing what Biden's doing. And then two, they gave him an umbrella, and they really did. I mean, it was Biden and Scholz that gave the umbrella. And Biden and Scholz wouldn't be just chilling at the beach. They're actually seriously concerned about escalation and worried about what Russia's going to do. They're not just relaxing. They're, I think, more afraid of what Russia might do than anything else. So the cartoon, while it says some things, I don't think it's quite fair. Tell me what you think about that, because I think it's more that they're afraid of Putin than they are just, we're at the beach, we're relaxing, we're having a good time. I don't think that's fair at all. But it does say something pretty significant in that cartoon. All right, that's all, my friends. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.